So, as a whole, this is in the bad category.
We know you've been trying to be optimistic in the last few questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to be the bright, sunshiny voice of positivity on this podcast, but this one there's really not so much sunshine at the end of the rainbow. So, carbonation, as you may guess, is because of carbon dioxide. So, the way carbon bubbles form is that there's enough carbon dioxide dissolved in the liquid that extra carbon forms into bubbles. So, basically, for the ocean to be carbonated, it has to be completely soluble. When all the solubles are in the liquid?
Dissolved?
There's a chemistry word.
Saturated.
Has to be fully saturated. I am on an audio roll here today. Has to be fully saturated, which results with the ocean going from a pH of 7, which is healthy for fish, to a pH of 3, which is quite acidic and not so healthy for fish.
It's pretty bad, yeah.
There are actually fish that can resist higher pH levels, like the rainbow fish in Australia, but even they can only manage a 3.5 on the pH scale. So a pH of 3 literally just kills all the fish in the ocean.
And then free fish for us.
Yeah. So actually, yes, free fish for us, because of the carbonation, like, fish aren't super dense. Like, they really are just about the same density as water, so they, don't sink or float unnaturally. So with the carbonation, the corpses of all the fish and all the animals are going to float up to the surface of the ocean, which is going to just be gross.
So are we even going to be able to see the water? It's just going to be all fish.
So that's the first thing I checked. There is going to be 7.5 billion tons of dead fish on the ocean surface. And if you do that across the entire surface area of the ocean, you end up with a layer of fish that is 0.04 millimeters. So you can still see the water. As we've said before on this podcast, the ocean's fucking big and pretty empty, it turns out. But that's only if it's evenly distributed. Actually, what happens is that the surface currents end up bringing things floating on the ocean surface into different concentrated areas. So if you guys have heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, where all the plastic shit that we throw into the ocean actually starts to congregate in this one area in the middle, pretty much dead center in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, but it's just basically like almost an island of plastic that stretches for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. So I found research on that where the concentration of like the plastics, if it was evenly distributed, compared to the patches, it's 15 times higher concentration of plastics in the patch area. So we're going to go up to just like, it's still like 0.5 millimeter of fish, but I think if you break that into fish that are like next to each other, it's still a lot of fish. And it's going to be gross.
So just don't go there.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a small segue and loop back around to this being gross. So the one thing I was thinking of is, so you have these bubbles like forming at the bottom of the ocean, which is kind of how I took it, where like a soda can, like a bubble forms all the way on the bottom and then goes all the way up the glass and pops.
Oh, should we point out that we said the ocean doesn't like get flat, it just stays carbonated?
Yeah, I guess new carbonation forms on the bottom is kind of how I took it.
Yeah.
So all the way at the bottom of the ocean, with the cold temperatures and the high pressure, the pressure is the main thing. And the pressure is 12,000 atmospheres, or 17,500 pounds per square foot of pressure at the bottom of the ocean. The funny thing about bubbles is that in order to form like a tiny, like say 1/4-inch bubble at the bottom of the ocean, you actually need a big dense concentration of carbon dioxide in that little bubble. And by Boyle's law, as you decrease the pressure around the bubble, the gas is going to expand. And the bottom of the ocean is so pressurized that by the time your 1/4-inch bubble gets to the surface of the ocean, it is going to expand from that 1/4-inch to a 25-foot bubble of carbon dioxide that's going to pop on the ocean's surface.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
And that's just one bubble. That's not bubbles combined. That's one bubble. So the ocean is going to be fucking popping. Which is going to be gross because there's going to be a lot of fish chunks flying around. And I'm going to take it one step further in the gross direction because all these bubbles that are popping are pure CO2 gas. And CO2 gas is denser than the air. So it eventually mixes in with the atmosphere, but at the rate it's coming up, it's just going to be sitting on the ocean surface. So all these fish are going to be basically swimming around in basically pure CO2, which is problematic because there's two ways things decompose: aerobic decomposition and anaerobic decomposition. Aerobic decomposition is the typical way things break down. It goes pretty quickly. It's actually not super stinky, but it requires oxygen. Anaerobic decomposition, which is what our case is going to be, is much slower, much stinkier. And it was hard to find actually exactly what makes it so dang stinky. Sulfur was mentioned a few times, but not everything has sulfur in it. But basically, picture like a decaying squirrel on the side of the road. And now this is like a much worse version of that decay, except it's like forever and everywhere in the ocean. And also getting shot around by 25-foot bubbles. And that's kind of where I ended up, is that's just going to be really gross.
Yeah, no, that's a reasonable frame of mind on this one, I think, yeah.
I think those bubbles are like a combination of both cool and gross.
Yeah, it's cool and gross. Like, sailing's going to be just kind of a no-brainer. Like, I think there's really just going to be like a whole layer of carbon dioxide in the ocean, so you can't like be on a boat and breathe at the same time. So,
well, I'll get to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to counter your sailing not being cool thing by saying that things like jet skiing or water skiing will be quite cool, actually.
Maybe. I just, like, what if you go into a bubble of pure CO2 while you're skiing? Do you just...
Well, you can use the bubble and use it as tricks.
Exactly.
Just, like, pop off the bubble.
This would be a very cool video game.
Be a very cool video
Wave
game.
Race 64 needs to make a comeback. I'm going to send them a letter. Dear Bethesda? I'm going to guess it's Bethesda.
It's not Bethesda. I don't know who it is, but I do know that it's not Bethesda.
Well, it was on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, a very popular platform for Bethesda. I can't say that 5 times fast, so I'm gonna pull the eject button on this on my conversation here.
Basically, what you're saying is that you want Wave Racer 64 Calories, which is a Michelob Ultra sponsorship.
Yeah, there you go.
Boom, done. All right.
Also, they did make a Wave Race sequel on the GameCube.
What?
Yeah.
Your prayers have been answered.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna go play that. I hope that has lots of bubbles.
I mean, the ocean wasn't carbonated in it, but...
Oh, well.
There's still work to be done.
We got new technology here in 2018, so...
Yeah, that's why I didn't get a perfect score.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the review was 9.9 out of 10.
Reviewers describe it as a little flat.